Is this on? This is on? Can you hear me? Yeah, you can hear me. Great. I'm reading from Genesis chapter 4, verses 1 to 15. Adam loved his wife Eve, and he slept with her. She became pregnant and gave birth to Cain. She said, "With the Lord's help, I have had a baby boy." Later, she gave birth to his brother Abel. Abel took care of sheep. Cain farmed the land, and after some time, Cain gathered things he had grown. He brought them up as an offering to the Lord, and Abel also brought an offering. He brought the fattest parts of the animal from his flock. They were the first animals born to their mothers. The Lord was pleased with Abel and his offering, but he wasn't pleased with Cain and his offering. So Cain became very angry, and his face was sad. Then the Lord said to Cain, "Why are you angry? Why are you looking so sad? Do what is right, and then you will be accepted. If you don't do what is right, sin is waiting at your door to grab you. It desires to control you, but you must rule over it." Cain said to his brother Abel, "Let's go out to the field." So they went out. There Cain attacked his brother Abel and killed him. Then the Lord said to Cain, "Where is your brother Abel?" "I don't know," Cain replied. "Am I supposed to take care of my brother?" The Lord said, "What have you done? Listen, your brother's blood is crying out to me from the ground. So I am putting a curse on you. I'm driving you away from this ground. It has opened its mouth to receive your brother's blood from your hand. When you farm the land, it will not produce its crops for you anymore. You will be a restless person who wanders around on the earth." Cain said to the Lord, "You are punishing me more than I can take. Today you are driving me away from the land. I will be hidden from you. I will be a restless person who wanders around on the earth. Anyone who finds me will kill me." But the Lord said to him, "No, anyone who kills you will be paid back 7 times. So the Lord put a mark on Cain. Then anyone who found him wouldn't kill him.
Thank you, Nadia. Hello, everyone. I'm Mary. Hello. And you'll notice we don't have any kids' church program today, so the kids are going to stay in. So this message is for them as much as it's for any of us. But I'm wondering if maybe we've done a bit of listening, so we might need a little bit of a wiggle break. So if you need to stand up and have a bit of a wiggle, that's okay. I know sometimes I do. Yep, just stretch, wiggle. All right, there we go. Sometimes it's hard to sit still listening. I also want to say hopefully we have enough, but there's some clipboards in the boxes at the back with some activities that you can use to follow along today. And so feel free to jump up and grab those if you need to, parents. Yeah. All right. Well, what an interesting story. I'm wondering, have you ever seen something happening in your family and thought, hey, that's not fair? That's not right. Have you ever been so angry that you stopped thinking properly? Maybe some of you can show me what your angry face would look like. That's a good one. What does your angry face look like? Have you ever been disappointed with God? This is a story about all of those things. We might not realize that at first, all right? It seems like it's a story about something very not nice, about a brother who hurts his brother, a brother who kills his brother. It's a sad story. It's a shocking story. But I think sometimes if we only look at that bit, it's really easy for us to say, that's an interesting story from our history. It's good to know. It's sad about sin, but I'm not that bad. I'm not like Cain. I would never do that. Because I don't think anybody here has done that before. But when we look at the rest of the story, the stuff that comes before that, I think we can find some familiar things that we need to pay attention to. Things like jealousy, things like anger, and things like disappointment. What is the thing that causes all this trouble in this story? Cain brings an offering to God, an offering of things that he has grown and gathered from the ground. Abel brings an offering too. He chooses the firstborn animals to offer to God. Both men brought something good to God. If we look at other parts of the Bible, like the law that God gave us, we can see that those types of offerings are both good, the animals and the things that are grown in the ground. But for some reason in this story, God looks at Abel's offering and is pleased. He looks at Abel's offering and he's more pleased with Abel's offering than with Cain's. And that's a little bit confusing. There have been lots and lots of different ideas about why God liked Abel's offering better. Some people say that animal offerings are better, but like I said, in other places in the Bible, we read that giving God the things we grow in the ground is also good. And sometimes we hear that Abel's heart was better than Cain's. And there is a part in Hebrews, another book of the Bible that comes later in the New Testament, where the author of that book says that Abel had more faith. But the first people who heard this story, they didn't have that bit in Hebrews. They only had this story. So they maybe didn't know that. And when we read this story in the Bible, it's not really clear, it's not exactly clear why God likes Abel's offering more. So that's a bit tricky. And the other interesting thing is that the story doesn't actually say that God didn't like Cain's offering. In the Bible that we read, it doesn't say God liked Abel's offering and he didn't like Cain's. It says he looked on Abel's offering and was pleased. So, what's going on here? God looks on Abel's with more favour. And so I think we can understand Cain a little bit though. We can understand his feelings, right? It doesn't actually feel fair that God liked his brother's offering more. There's plenty of times I think when I have felt jealous of other people's blessings. And I think that's what's going on with Cain. God is obviously pleased with Abel and Cain is upset by that. The Bible story says that Cain is angry. He is so angry that his face was red and hot. Has anyone ever been that angry before? I know that I have. Yeah. Anger is a very big feeling, right? Anger can grow so big. Sometimes our anger gets so big, it actually has some other feelings hiding behind it. So have a little bit of think. I might have even said some of those feelings already, and I've got a hint that hopefully Seb can put up. Yes, there's some feelings that we can look at. What do you think are some other feelings that might have been hiding behind Cain's anger? You can shout them out at me. Jealous, yeah. Sorry? Left out, yeah. Disappointed? Sorry? Cranky? Insecure? That's a whole lot of feelings. Any more? Hurt? Yep. Oh, happy. I'm not sure. Embarrassed is a good one, yeah. Because remember, he was angry, and it's really hard to be angry and happy at the same time. So I think it was some other feelings that were going on. Mad, yep. Thank you all for giving me some feeling words. That's a lot of feelings. And God knew all about Cain's feelings. He knows about ours too. God actually asked Cain about his feelings. He said, "Why are you angry? Why are you sad?" But Cain, it doesn't look like he answered God. And I think what happened was that Cain let his feelings get so big that he was hiding behind them too. And he was thinking about his angry feeling more than he was thinking about God's goodness and God's rightness. Sometimes our anger is like this too. It gets so big that we can't see around it anymore, that we can't see God anymore. I wonder if you've ever had a time when you felt that angry. I wonder if you've ever felt that angry at God. I know that I have been so angry at God. Not too long ago, I missed out on something that I really wanted, something very special. And I felt like God had taken it away from me. My anger got very big, and you might be a bit shocked because sometimes we feel like we're not meant to be angry. But it's just a feeling. We all have it. But hiding behind my angry feeling were some other feelings like sadness and disappointment and grief. Grief is a feeling we have when we lose something. But I have some really good friends, and they helped me to remember that it's okay to have these feelings. All of our feelings were given to us by God. But that I should share these feelings with God. I should talk to him about them. So I spent lots and lots of time telling God exactly how I felt about what had happened. And I also had some good friends remind me that even when I'm angry, God is still good and God is still right. And when I was telling God about my feelings, he also told me and showed me that he is good and right. So this helped me start to see around the big feeling of anger. And my big feeling of anger got slowly smaller and smaller and smaller, until one day that angry feeling was gone. Like I said, our feelings aren't bad. God made us. He gave us feelings, emotions. And Jesus had emotions too, like the rest of us humans. But sometimes our feelings get so big that we forget who God really is. That's what happened with Cain. God asked Cain about his anger, and it looks like Cain ignored God. God warned Cain. He said, "Don't let your anger get too big. You still have a choice. But if you keep choosing to be angry, you are letting sin into your heart." The best way for us to remember who God is to spend time with him, reading the Bible and learning the truth about God, talking to God and listening to God. Sometimes when we have big feelings, it's hard to do those things. But when we know God like a friend, our big feelings get smaller and they don't stop us from seeing God. When we know God like he's our friend, we remember what's true about him. So I read this story and I think to myself, I wonder what would have been different if when God asked Cain, "Why are you angry?" if Cain had talked to God about how he was feeling. Instead, sadly, Cain chose his own way. And that sin that had started with his parents, with Adam and Eve, like we heard about from Sparkle, sin started there with disobedience to God, and that continued when Cain chose his own way. And it kept going. Sadly, things went from bad to worse. Cain hurt his brother Abel, and then we keep hearing stories about other people who were angry, who were proud, who were greedy, people who hurt other people, and the sin kept going. Things were not how they were supposed to be. Sin was everywhere and in everyone. It wasn't looking very good. But the good news for us is that the story is not over. God has a plan. He had a plan to send a man who had no sin in him. And in the curriculum that we've been using, they call this man the snake crusher. Jesus. Jesus is the one who will make things right again. Something that's great to hope for, something that we look forward to, is Jesus coming back again to make all things right. But we get a choice every day. Do we let our big feelings get in the way of the truth of God, or do we choose to remember who God is? Let me pray for us now. God, this is a terrible, sad story. And there are lots of terrible, sad stories that we hear in our world today. Stories about how sin is everywhere and in everyone. Things are not the way that they are supposed to be. And sometimes the sin in our lives and in our hearts is too big as well. Sometimes we feel angry, sad, disappointed, jealous, and we don't understand what you are doing. But God, we know that you are good and you are right and that we need to follow you. Help us to remember all of the things that are true about you, even when we feel very big feelings. Help us to remember that you are good. Amen.